God says, I will expose the one pretending to be your friend. Not to punish, but to teach discernment. Not to shame, but to illuminate truth. Many times in life, you have encountered smiles that hid agendas, words that disguised indifference, and hands extended with intentions that were not sincere. You may have felt confusion, betrayal, or hurt, wondering how someone so close could suddenly feel distant or misleading. Yet even in the heartbreak, there is a lesson. True friendship is rare, and so is true discernment. The world often teaches you to trust first and question later. But wisdom works differently. It teaches you to listen deeply, to notice patterns, and to feel intentions beneath words. Some smiles are bridges, others are illusions. And knowing the difference is a skill, one cultivated in patience, observation, and faith. When the one who pretends stands beside you, their actions and words are like a mask painted carefully. You may not see it at first. They may laugh with you, speak with warmth, and share moments that feel real. But there is a subtle energy, a weight, a coldness, a sense that something is not aligning with the love you expect, that begins to whisper in your heart. That whisper is your intuition, your spiritual compass, signaling that all is not as it seems. God says that exposing the pretender is not about public humiliation. It is about revelation, the uncovering of what is hidden, the alignment of what is true, and the protection of your spirit. You will recognize patterns where words do not match deeds, where loyalty is offered selectively, and where concern comes only when it benefits them. This is the quiet work of observation, the divine unveiling that comes not with noise but with clarity. Sometimes the exposure comes slowly. It starts with small inconsistencies, a promise unkept, a private conversation repeated, a subtle criticism disguised as advice. These are not accidents. They are signals, whispers that guide you toward awareness. And the one who pretends cannot hide forever. Truth has a gravity of its own, deceit cannot sustain itself indefinitely. You may feel torn between desire to believe in their friendship and the reality that your intuition warns you against. That tension is necessary. It teaches patience, self-trust, and courage. It reminds you that friendship is sacred, that your heart is not a place for casual occupation, and that loyalty cannot be assumed. God says that as this exposure unfolds, you must not respond with anger or revenge. Your power lies not in retaliation but in discernment. The person pretending to be your friend will reveal themselves naturally, through patterns, not words. You will see them clearly when your heart is steady and your vision is calm. The unveiling is not to punish them but to protect you from the drain of false affection. There is a profound lesson in recognizing pretenders. It teaches boundaries. When you understand that not all who smile with you intend well, you develop the ability to say no without guilt. You learn that protecting your energy is not selfish but necessary. You begin to attract friendships that are rooted in truth, love, and mutual respect, rather than charm, convenience, or pretense. The exposure also teaches humility. Even when you are betrayed, you discover resilience. You understand that your worth is not determined by who stays and who leaves, but by your capacity to honor yourself and choose wisely. You are not diminished when deception is revealed, you are elevated. Because seeing clearly is strength, and acting with integrity is power. When the truth becomes visible, it is like sunlight breaking through clouds. The one pretending cannot maintain their mask under light. Small acts of dishonesty become glaring, inconsistency becomes obvious, and hidden motives are revealed through natural consequence. You do not need to orchestrate this. It happens because the universe favors truth and clarity. Part of the process is forgiving yourself. Often, you may feel shame or self-blame for having trusted someone who was not sincere. But God says that trusting is not weakness, it is courage. Loving is not foolishness, it is sacred. The exposure is a gift, not a condemnation. It is the unveiling of reality so that your heart can be free to invest in those who are genuine, those whose loyalty matches their words. In time, you will notice that the relationships that are authentic strengthen, while the ones built on pretense fade. You will feel lighter, freer, and more aligned with your true self. Exposure is not punishment for the pretender alone, it is liberation for you. Your role is not to dwell on the false friend but to cultivate your discernment. Learn to read energies, to trust instincts, and to seek alignment over appearances. Some lessons in friendship are subtle: a look, a tone, a hesitation, a pattern that repeats. God says these are signals to guide your heart, not to frighten it. Even when betrayal stings, you discover grace. You learn to release the resentment, not for them, but for your own peace. You begin to understand that exposure is a natural law. Deception cannot endure when faced with clarity, consistency, and patience. The truth unfolds in divine timing, and when it does, you are ready to see it fully without being controlled by emotion. You will also learn discernment in choosing new companions. Genuine friends are like mirrors, reflecting your integrity, encouraging your growth, and sharing your joy without hidden agendas. They do not need to prove themselves constantly, their consistency is the proof of their loyalty. And by recognizing this, you attract relationships that nourish instead of drain, that support instead of manipulate. God says the one pretending to be your friend is part of your journey, not the destination. Their presence is temporary, and their exposure is meant to free you for connections that are real and life-giving. The revelation of their true nature does not define your story, it simply removes obstacles, clears the path, and strengthens your discernment. You may find that exposure does not come all at once. Sometimes it is a conversation that reveals inconsistencies. Sometimes it is the realization that their support is selective. Sometimes it is subtle, a gut feeling, a moment of clarity, a recurring pattern. These are not coincidences, they are the universe's gentle way of opening your eyes. Your task is not to seek exposure, but to live in integrity. When you act from honesty, love, and consistency, falsehoods unravel naturally. You do not need to chase the truth, it finds its way to you. And when it does, you are ready to see without bitterness, act without fear, and walk forward without regret. This is the sacred rhythm of friendship and discernment: trust, observe, reflect, release. Those who are genuine reveal themselves through loyalty, consistency, and care. Those who pretend are revealed through contrast, inconsistency, and subtle misalignment. God says to watch carefully, listen deeply, and allow revelation to arrive in its perfect timing. The ultimate purpose of exposing the pretender is liberation. You are freed from emotional drain, from confusion, from the weight of disingenuous connection. You are freed to cultivate friendships that honor your worth, align with your values, and inspire your growth. Exposure is not a curse, it is a form of protection, a divine invitation to live fully and authentically. As time passes, you begin to notice the small signs that distinguish true friends from pretenders. These signs are subtle at first: a forgotten promise, a vague excuse, a shift in tone, but they accumulate. The heart begins to sense them before the mind fully registers. You may feel a quiet unease or hesitation, a tug in your chest that says, something is not right. This is intuition at work, your inner compass guiding you toward clarity. God says that intuition is one of the greatest gifts in navigating relationships. It allows you to perceive beyond appearances, to sense energies that words cannot convey, and to recognize patterns before they become entanglements. When a person's loyalty is inconsistent, or when their support is conditional, your spirit knows. Even if you cannot articulate it immediately, you understand that the foundation is weak. The process of recognition is often uncomfortable. You may feel guilt for doubting someone you once trusted. You may question whether your feelings of suspicion are valid or exaggerated. But God says that discernment is not arrogance, it is wisdom. Questioning and observing are essential steps in protecting your heart from deception. True love and friendship never demand blind faith, they are steady, transparent, and kind. As the patterns become clearer, a sense of liberation begins to emerge. The exposure is not sudden, it is gradual, unfolding in moments of insight and reflection. You start to see how the person's actions do not align with their words. Promises are broken selectively. Concern appears only when it benefits them. Their presence begins to feel heavy, not uplifting. God says that exposure is meant to protect you, not to punish them. It is an unveiling that allows you to release attachment to someone who does not have your best interests at heart. When their true nature becomes evident, you are free to disengage without guilt. You no longer invest energy in maintaining illusions. The release is quiet, peaceful, and empowering. During this time, you also learn to protect yourself from future pretenders. You notice which behaviors are red flags: inconsistent communication, lack of accountability, manipulation disguised as advice, and emotional pressure disguised as concern. Recognizing these patterns strengthens your boundaries and deepens your understanding of genuine connection. God says that even as the pretender is exposed, your heart remains sacred and untarnished. Betrayal does not diminish your capacity to love, nor does it reduce your ability to trust wisely. Exposure is not about punishment, it is about purification. It clears your emotional field so that authentic connections can enter your life. As you release the energy of the false friendship, you find space for true companionship. Genuine friends appear, often quietly, bringing support, encouragement, and unconditional care. You notice that these friendships do not demand effort or attention in the same way; they are balanced, reciprocal, and restorative. The contrast is striking: where pretenders drained your energy, true friends nourish your soul. The exposure process also teaches you patience. Not everyone reveals their intentions immediately, and not all truth comes in a dramatic moment. Sometimes the person who pretends maintains a mask for months, even years. God says that time is a revealer. Patterns will emerge. Their inconsistency will show, their motives will become clear, and your perception will sharpen. You do not need to force revelation, it unfolds naturally. During this period, you may feel moments of doubt or fear, wondering whether you misjudged, whether your heart is too sensitive, or whether your trust was misplaced. God says to hold steady. Your discernment is valid. Your feelings are signals, not flaws. Trust the inner guidance that has brought you this far. You may also learn forgiveness through exposure, not forgiveness of wrongdoing alone, but forgiveness for trusting too quickly, for allowing your heart to be deceived, and for giving love without full understanding. Forgiveness is not for them, it is for you. It allows you to move forward without carrying bitterness. As clarity grows, your presence in relationships becomes more intentional. You no longer invest blindly or out of fear of missing out. You choose connections that reflect your values, honor your energy, and encourage your growth. You begin to recognize the rhythm of authentic friendship: reciprocity, transparency, mutual respect, and care without manipulation. God says that as pretenders are exposed, your intuition strengthens. You learn to distinguish between attention and affection, between kindness and convenience, and between genuine care and strategic maneuvering. This discernment becomes a gift, allowing you to navigate social spaces with confidence and grace. You realize that exposure is not merely a revelation of someone else's character, it is a confirmation of your own. It validates your sensitivity, your insight, and your capacity to perceive truth. You are no longer naive, you are awakened. The process also fosters resilience. Each experience with a pretender teaches you to stand firm, to protect your emotional boundaries, and to maintain integrity even when faced with deception. You no longer crumble under betrayal, you observe, learn, and rise. Exposure strengthens your character and enhances your capacity to cultivate meaningful relationships. God says that the one pretending to be your friend is a mirror, reflecting areas where discernment, patience, and self-respect are needed. Their actions are not a condemnation of your worth, but a catalyst for growth. The exposure is a gift. It allows you to remove what does not serve you and make space for what does. As the pattern unfolds, you begin to see the broader purpose. Life is a teacher, friendships are tests, and deception is a signal to align more closely with truth. Every encounter, whether authentic or pretended, shapes your ability to love wisely, choose carefully, and trust with clarity. And then comes the day when you finally see clearly. The one who pretended to be your friend is revealed, not in a moment of drama, but in the quiet unfolding of truth. Their mask slips, their inconsistencies become impossible to ignore, and the contrast between their actions and words is undeniable. You do not need to confront them in anger or bitterness. The unveiling is complete simply because reality cannot be hidden forever. God says this exposure is for your protection and growth. It is not about shaming others but about illuminating truth. When you recognize the deceit, you are free to step away without regret. You no longer carry the weight of false allegiance or misplaced trust. Your heart, once cautious and wary, now beats with clarity and confidence. You begin to notice a profound change in how you approach relationships. Where before you may have rushed to give your loyalty or affection, you now move deliberately. You observe, you listen, you feel. You trust your intuition more than appearances. You understand that alignment matters more than proximity, and that genuine connection cannot be forced. The exposure also teaches you forgiveness, first for yourself, for trusting someone too quickly, and then for them, not because they deserve it, but because your peace demands it. You release the burden of resentment, knowing that it does not serve you. Holding on to anger keeps you bound to the deception, letting it go allows your spirit to rise. With time, you notice that your circle begins to shift. Those who are authentic remain. Their presence is effortless, their care consistent, their loyalty unquestionable. These are the relationships that nourish you, that honor your worth, that reflect your integrity. You learn that true friendship does not require constant validation, it is steady, reciprocal, and unconditional. God says that every false friendship revealed has been a lesson in preparation. Each pretender was not a failure, but a guidepost, directing you to cultivate discernment, patience, and self-respect. Every encounter, whether genuine or feigned, has contributed to the development of your wisdom and the strengthening of your boundaries. You feel lighter now, unburdened by the weight of deceit. You no longer chase the approval of others, nor do you fear being alone. The exposure has purified your relational landscape. Your heart is free to invest in connections that are real, nurturing, and aligned with your values. There is also a quiet joy in knowing that you can trust again. Not blindly, not naively, but wisely. You can welcome new friendships and deepen existing ones with clarity and confidence. The lessons of exposure allow you to differentiate between those who bring growth and those who bring harm, between those who are consistent and those who are conditional. God says that discernment is a shield. It protects your energy, your dreams, and your peace. It allows you to say yes to what aligns with your purpose and no to what drains or deceives. Exposure of the pretender is the mechanism through which this shield becomes visible, strengthening your resolve and confirming your intuition. You walk forward now with an unshakable calm. The past no longer haunts you, and the betrayals no longer sting. Each experience has become a building block, shaping a heart that is wise, courageous, and compassionate. You understand that the presence of pretenders was temporary, necessary for growth, and ultimately transformative. In time, you notice that life flows differently. Opportunities appear naturally, relationships deepen authentically, and your energy is protected from manipulation. The exposure of the one pretending was not merely a revelation of their character, but a gift that allowed you to reclaim your own power and peace. You move through the world with a quiet confidence. You are aware of deceit, yet unafraid of it. You carry boundaries without bitterness, discernment without arrogance, and love without expectation. The one who pretended to be your friend no longer holds sway over your emotions, and the lessons learned remain as guidance for the future. God says that this clarity is the fruit of patience, observation, and trust. The exposure has liberated you. You are now free to cultivate meaningful connections, embrace authentic joy, and walk with integrity. The one who pretended could not deceive the light within you. Truth has revealed itself, peace has been restored, and your heart now moves freely, guided by wisdom, shielded by discernment, and surrounded by love that is real. Asterisk.